Hey, everybody. I thought I would provide a brief analysis of the tragic events of a few days ago, the assassination of a social media influencer by the name of Charlie Kirk, who honestly, until that happened, I was only sort of marginally aware that he existed. The stuff that he does didn't really cross my media verse at all. So I learned a lot more about him than I had known before. I knew he existed, sort of vaguely, but I know a lot more now. I know a lot more now. So this is my take on that. Certainly, this assassination is obviously very bad for Charlie Kirk. He was only 31 years old, had a bright future in front of him. Incredibly tragic for his wife and kids. I feel absolutely terrible for them. My God, unimaginable. And I think as well a tragedy for the country, right? Because in my own view, this is my own take on things. Take it for what you think it's worth. Right? Two things here that concern me. One is, right, that this is really part of a sort of an escalating cycle of political violence that we're stuck in right now, kind of an unvirtuous cycle. Democrats being assassinated, Republicans being assassinated. The numbers aren't large, but they're way bigger than they should be and historically have been. I would say we've been through worse, for sure. If you look at the year 1968, that was a terrible year of political violence. And right, we recovered from it. So I know it sounds a little cold, but we shouldn't get too hyped, this too shall pass. I guess I have a little bit of a stoic philosophy. This too shall pass. We've been down this road before. We've been further down this road. We'll survive for sure. Right, scarred, but we have lots of scars. But I just hope this doesn't escalate, because that's the danger, right? Sort of. I think about Greek tragedies, right? The Oresteia trilogy. That I read back in undergrad about 1 million years ago, right, with this ever-escalating cycle of violence. So that's extremely concerning, right, that this will escalate that cycle. And then the second thing seems to me is that, what is the other thing I wanted to say? I just spoke so much about that one, I forgot about the other one. Dang it. So I'll remember. I'll just keep talking. I'll move on to another topic and circle back when I remember. But right, so the question becomes for many, right? How should we sort of interpret this? How should we be responding? It seems to me, right, there have been those who have celebrated it. Oh my God, please, no, let's not go there, please. But I think it's fair, seems to me. I think it's fair to say this is tragic for sure. I know. Yeah, the other thing that concerns me, and look, it may not come to fruition. Maybe I'm being overly hyped. But one of my concerns is that Donald Trump, right, uses this as leverage. Because that's what politicians tend to do. They take these sorts of things as an opportunity to grow their political power. After Ronald Reagan was nearly assassinated when he was president, and he recovered, he used that as an opportunity to move his political agenda through Congress. I don't blame him, because for a while there, right, he was super popular as a martyr who had almost been assassinated. He's like, it sucked, but let's take advantage of it politically. So I guess I'm a little... But Reagan was Reagan and Trump is Trump. So I'm a little concerned that Trump uses this to sort of accelerate his, fairly authoritarian agenda of centralizing ever more power in one branch and one person, and further militarizing law enforcement. He's already suggested that he's coming after liberal groups with, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Department of Justice. A little concern that he's going to use this to crack down on dissent coming from the left. Yeah, so that's the second reason why it's a tragedy for the country, I think. Potentially. And Reagan, wishful thinking on my part. Trump is really telegraphing that. And lately, unlike in Trump 1.0, his first time around, he's really following through on these promises. So that concerns me a very great deal. Yeah, so, super fair, I know, for those who are part of the MAGA movement, devotees of Donald Trump, followers of Charlie Kirk. Right, their argument is, my God, some people are celebrating. Well, yeah, we're a large and diverse nation, 320 million people. Some people are going to say deeply incorrect things. If a prominent Democrat had been assassinated, you would have heard some pretty remarkable things coming from MAGA people, because that's happened in the past. No reason to think it wouldn't have happened again. So, people are people. What are you going to do, man? You're going to get some of that. Don't let that make you lose hope in America. I'm endlessly optimistic about America and its future. I don't let things like that get me down. I'm like, yeah, that's just noise, right? That's just statistical noise in the background, I think. So you're going to get some of that. You're always going to get some of that. I don't know what to say, man. If that gets you down, give up. Get out of the kitchen. It's too hot for you. Come on. Have more faith in America than that. So I wanted to say that. And, again, look, I'm kind of moderately left progressive. The more I look into Kirk and what he said, I'm pretty unimpressed for the most part. Pretty unimpressed. He punched down a lot. He said some terrible things. I saw one where he was at some sort of a forum, and someone of Chinese background must have said something to him that bothered him, and he called the guy a chink. Like, a chink, really? Okay, that's where we're at. Okay. So, it's tragic that he was assassinated, but that doesn't suddenly make him a great man, necessarily. I mean, maybe he was and maybe he wasn't, but simply being assassinated doesn't make him a great man, right? And so I think there are some in sort of the MAGA universe who think, yeah, no celebrating, fair. A deep regret over this assassination, fair. But then we also need to pay our respects to Kirk as a great man, and anyone who doesn't do that is being, sort of un-American or inappropriate or disloyal, and that's what's wrong with America. No, not acceptable. Let's keep our heads about us here, right? He was pretty flawed, and I'm being generous when I say that. And being assassinated doesn't erase all of that. It just doesn't. It doesn't. So I think those who are expressing criticism of his ideas and language, that's super fair. He doesn't get a pass because he was assassinated. We don't have to all bow down to Charlie Kirk as our Lord and Commander. Like, no. Come on. No. So, those are my boundaries on that. Okay, so for whatever you think that's worth. Yeah, because it's interesting. The New York Times podcast, The Daily, did a great piece on him. Very respectful. It traced his remarkable rise to prominence, gave him all of his props. But, some of the voices on that program also said, yeah, but he had some things going on that were not impressive. He was a devout Christian, but also MAGA, and sometimes those things don't go together very well. Like when you call a Chinese American a chink, that's not devoutly Christian. That's perhaps MAGA, but it's not devoutly Christian. So, hey, there was a tension there, right? All of us have these contradictions. So, there were times when he crossed lines that he never should have crossed, and he didn't ever regret it because it made him a lot of money and got him a lot of influence. He was one of the primary election deniers after Trump lost in 2020, perpetrating falsehood after falsehood about the election. That's not impressive. That doesn't make him a great man. He doesn't get, a pass on that because he was assassinated. So people can make of his legacy what they will, but I would say this, because I'm old. I lived through the era of Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh was Kirk's hero growing up, and he aspired to be a younger, sort of more media savvy Rush Limbaugh. That's what he was. That's what he was. And look, Rush Limbaugh died some years ago. No one remembers that guy. Conservatives never talk about him ever. And yet at the time they were like, he's everything. And then they forgot about him pretty quickly because, he was kind of a snake oil salesman who made a lot of money. Good for him. Good for him and his family. But he didn't really leave a lasting impression on our culture or our politics. And so, I think Kirk was that. Some are arguing, no, he was more than that. He was a great man. He'll have an enduring legacy, and maybe he will. What do I know? But I think it's fair to say, wow, he looks an awful lot like a young Rush Limbaugh. What happened to Limbaugh? All right. So, all right. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Take care. Stay safe out there, by the way. And don't let this stuff get you down. Really. I keep telling my students on ground, man, sorry that things are so terrible these days. Sorry you're coming of age at a tough time. I came of age at a much easier time, politically and culturally. But, we'll make it through this. We absolutely will. Some people, right, when something dramatic happens, they get all like hyper and they hyperventilate and say, the end is coming. Well, calm down. I've been around the block a few times. The end's not coming. These are tough times. And, it's very challenging. But I think we'll get through this and we'll emerge out the other side better and stronger. Keep the faith, people. Take care.